Well, everybody, I've got 12 o'clock noon, so I think we will kick off the January Ag Dialogues here. Thanks, everybody, for registering that was able to. We've got some of you signed on already, and hopefully we can get the recording to those that might be watching this later. I'm Heather Gessner, the SDSU Extension Livestock Business Management Field Specialist based out of the Sioux Falls office. And also on today, we have Jack Davis. We're going to cover two topics today. We learned from our December meeting that we got a little ambitious with 4 presenters, so we're going to cover just a couple things today and hopefully get you some information about the Farm Bill and some sign-up information that you might need, and then take a look at some considerations and ways to pencil out what the grain market and the stored grain that you might have in your bin would be worth now and down the line, and making some of those marketing decisions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jack in the Mitchell office and give him control of the computer and go from there.
Okay, is that looking good, Heather?
Yeah, it's there.
Yep, okay, that's what I wanted. So we'll run through Farm Bill and take a look at the calculators. If you guys got questions, probably just stop it at any time or type those in, and we'll get them covered. So we'll just get at it. So just a few things. You can update PLC yields, and that would just be a choice if yields are better this time than they were last time. Go ahead and update them. And what it is going to take a simple average from 13 to 17 of those crops that were planted, and just do a simple average, no Olympic average or anything, and just compare that to what yield was before. But that's probably something you don't want to miss out on. Go ahead and do it. You have from now until September 30th of 2020, but you probably want to do that anyway, so you know what your earlier before March 15th, so you know what your PLC payment could possibly be, or what those yields are. So it would help in making that decision and choosing between PLC and ARC. So go ahead and update it. Most crop insurance firms or agents are helping people with those yields, and that can serve as your record keeping. FSA is just going to take what you tell them, but you are subject to a spot check, so you'd want the backing for that. The problem probably comes in if you picked up other land and don't have data for those years. So that may be where you have to get that extra data, or it's going to have to use the plug type yield. Let me see here. So it's pretty much the same as last time. There are a few changes, and we'll hopefully highlight those as we go through here. We got a choice between PLC, price loss coverage, the ARC County, and ARC IC, and I'll go through briefly what those are. So we have first off the PLC, which is just based on price. And remember last time, as we came into this sign up for the Farm Bill, the ARC County was pretty dominant on corn and soybeans. Well, that's not going to be the case this time. They are very close together, especially on corn price. That national average price has been hovering right around the PLC level, which is 370 for corn. And the soybeans, that price is above that PLC level, and wheat still favors at this time, favors probably PLC. The national average price of all wheat is below this reference price. So there generally is a PLC payment on wheat base if farms have a wheat base. So county ag risk coverage, or ARC County, is a revenue-based program at the county level. So there's a benchmark on the county level, and then they take actual county yields, and that's how it pays. It doesn't matter what you do on your farm, what you raise. It's just based on your base acres and whether there's a county level loss, and then that's how you're paid. So actual county yield is used to calculate the benchmark and a yearly payment rate. The benchmark revenue is Olympic average yield, which Olympic average is just 5 years. And you take out the high and low and divide by the 3 for the 3 remaining years. It does that for yield and a national price. And payments are triggered when actual county revenue is less than the guarantee for that county. And we'll look at some examples. It uses 85% of base acres in its calculation. And also the PLC uses 85 also. Something that's different this time is that ARC IC will be, needs to be taken a look at. You know, last time, due to the fact that it only covered 65% of the base acres, it pretty much didn't have a chance to pay out. Well, with all the prevent plant and maybe some yield losses, it's worth taking a look at that this time. Another thing I need to throw in here, and I didn't have that, was that it's different this time when we're signing up, because we're signing up just for 2 years to start. You'll be locked in for 19 and 20 crop years. And then beyond that, it becomes an annual election and you can choose between the different programs. So this ARC County individual, I shouldn't say ARC County, the individual ARC is again revenue, and it's based on actual individual farm data. So the benchmark uses a 5-year Olympic average of your actual farm revenue of the covered commodities. So it's going to take those commodities, and there's a list of them. There's probably 26 commodities that you would actually plant on your farm. And that's what it's going to base that benchmark on. It takes a marketing year price, the average marketing year price, times your actual farm yield. And if it wasn't planted, it uses 100% for its plug. And if you have a low yield, then it will use that 80% of T yield. And just as ARC County, except based on an individual basis, the payments are triggered when the actual farm revenue falls below the guarantee. And that'll be easier to see as we look at some of the calculators. So I really went through that really quickly. Does anybody have any questions?
There haven't been any in the chat.
Okay. And if you have, be sure to ask them and explain. I'll try to explain them or get you the information. So what I did was I went to the USDA site or FSA site, which has information on the programs. So this is their site. And here's different ways that you can get to different.
You're going to need to share that website instead of from the Farm Bill or from your presentation site. You need to share a different screen with us.
Oh my, okay. Sorry about that.
Yep.
So.
And share this and then share your internet page.
And I find that where?
You're still sharing the PowerPoint.
So stop with that.
Correct.
Okay.
And now go down to share. and back up to your internet browser.
See it now?
Yes.
Okay. So those links will be in that PowerPoint that's on the recording. You can stop it and get it. Otherwise, it's fsa.usda.gov and then go to the Farm Bill data. So they have a couple different ways to get to their information. You can use the jump to, goes to a home page, the library with all different kinds of information on past programs and different things. Program data, payment maps that it has made for paying in the past, and what's changed. So let's just look at maybe this what's changed. So probably just highlight a few things. Some of their terminology gets confusing because they're kind of using the same words. Reference price is changed, replaced with effective reference price. That's really just, yeah, semantics. This is probably the big one that would be changed, and we may see a difference there. Rather than using national ag statistics, they are going to use RMA data for county yields. So that could change from what it has been in the past. And those yields are trend adjusted. They do have, if there's irrigated ground within a county, it can be irrigated or non-irrigated. And before that was all under one. So that'll be better for those that have irrigation in their counties. Yeah, and as we said, we're electing for 19 and 20 and then re-elect each year thereafter. The PLC yield, you would probably want to update. It just depends on whether yields were better during that time period versus the last time period. Another thing that has to be done by the landowner. Well, you can do it for the landowner. You just need him to sign off on it, or I think have the power of attorney. So check with your FSA office on that. And the other thing is they're going to be a lag year. So in the past, they were just using the year right behind the year that had just finished. Well, now we're going to have a whole skip. So as it says here for program year 2019, they'll use 13 through 17. And then as we get into 20, it'll be 14 through 18. So there'll always be that blank or lag year. And that'll help in getting payments made and that type of stuff. So I clicked on the resources page. And here are a couple web-based tools that you can use in helping decide what you might want to make for a decision. I'll click on this and there. Okay. That's good. Well, anyway, on that tool, they run it through a bunch of iterations or simulations, and it is leaning toward PLC on all of that. But part of that's just where they're making the prices falling out. So they're projecting price through that to be lower. Right now, PLC is not making a payment, based on what our price is, what our national average price is so far in this year, in this marketing year. So I have a couple other calculators that are make sure I got the right one here. So this is also from Farm Doc. It's not going to be there. It's not going to be the one that does the simulation, but you can look at a few different things here. So we're going to take a look at Ark County PLC. And this is at the Farm Doc site with.
So Jack, you need to share a different web page again.
All right. Meeting controls. Stop share. Share screen. I apologize for that. So this is a spreadsheet that you download. Did it come up?
Yes.
Let me go back to its beginning. So it's a spreadsheet that I got downloaded from FarmDoc and their fast tools. North Dakota State also has a pretty good calculator, and I'm just chose to show this one here today. So we're going to do an Ark County PLC comparison. I'm going to change here to South Dakota. Oh, we want McCook or Minnehaha?
You can pick.
So pick McCook and corn. Put defaults. Does that seem reasonable for yields over there? Looks like they're all right in that 180. I'm down here. In this
Right. That was probably high for last year.
For 19 or 18? Which?
19, just getting done. I'd say closer to maybe 160.
We'll drop this one a little bit too. Let me get this to slide. So this is doing all those calculations that we talked about just a little bit before. And this is estimating then a payment. Well, you won't get a PLC payment because it is below or above 370, which is our reference price for corn. And here is the benchmark guarantee for corn. So that 5-year Olympic average. Our price has come down to that 370 level, which is right at reference price. So this gives the guarantee based on these yields that we plugged in and that price. This is what the county revenue was. So no payment either way, PLC or our county, with these yields and this price. We can make some changes here and see when it might kick in. And this is all based on county information. So if we drop this below the reference price, if we end up, I think the last few years it's been right at 366 for our national average price. So if we just say that that's what's going to happen this time, and then it shows, it changes the guarantee, of course, and what county revenue was and what our payment would be per base acre. So you can, this is a good calculator to get in and do some what ifs and see what you might want to change. I'm going to back up a little bit and show what happened out of our last farm bill. So this is taking what happened out of the 2014 farm bill for the life of it. I got South Dakota, McCook County on corn, all types, PLC yield payment of 112. And we'll go down here and see. So as we said, in the first few years, that it leaned very heavily to Ark County, and it paid well in those first few years. But then as we got into the last two, market year average price was lower. So then PLC kicked in. In this example, there's about $12 difference over the 5 years between the two programs. So just wanted to show that to you, what historically it had done. And now this time it makes it just really kind of a tougher decision because though we are so close on those. So I think one thing a person needs to think about is that, do you want that coverage due for possible county disaster in very low yields? Then this is the one. The Ark County would be what you'd want to pick. If you just want to base it on price support, then it's PLC. So that can also maybe help you decide. I'm going to jump back to our 2018 tool. We could look at, you can switch our crop to soybeans. Oh, it didn't, I better click this. Would you have done 40 on beans, Heather?
Sure.
Maybe not that good.
It depended when they got in and how much rain they got, and then when they were able to get them out, just like everywhere else.
Yeah. I think county would end up that well. We'll say it does.
Let's say it does.
Yeah. Now this one is showing a possible payment under those scenarios if it would drop to 40. Market year average price currently is right at $9. That'll change tomorrow and changes each month as we go through till we get the final one. But as of right now, that would pay on those base acres. If you choose Ark County, you can choose that by crop and by farm. So you could choose soybeans, Ark County on a farm, but you could go Ark, you could go PLC for your wheat or your corn if you wanted to. You can mix and match those by farm and by crop on the Ark County and the PLC. If you choose the individual coverage, which is Ark IC, then everything is locked into that. And we'll take a look at that here too.
Jack, so for 2019 and 2020, are we picking those the same? Those two will be the same, and then in 2021, we can make changes?
Correct. And you'll sign, the first sign up is before March 15th. So they're going to be swamped. I'm guessing we'll maybe get an extension, but don't count on that. Get your stuff together, make an appointment here, probably end of January, beginning of February, and get in and see them. Don't wait till middle of March to go visit. Because if you don't get signed up, it's worth taking some time to get signed up, even if there's may not be a payment, because if there is and you're not signed up, it will throw you into what you had last time. But by not signing up, you will not get a payment if there is one. So there's a little penalty for not doing anything. So if you're interested in signing up, yeah, make the appointment, get in before March 15th. And as Heather said, you're signing up for 2, and I'm sure you have to come back in and make what they call an election, even though you've already signed up. But then from the rest of the farm bill time period, 21, 22, and 23, we can change each year to what you may want. So this is, I like this calculator because you can adjust these numbers to the county yields that are published. And we should know this one by middle of February. So maybe you could wait till that time frame and get that. Or if you have a good feel for what that is on the county level, just plug that number in. Market year average price you can get from the FSA website on what our price is projected to be for the year. I want to jump and cover a little bit of ARC-IC. And they just came with this yesterday. North Dakota has probably a little better product in that you can compare more than one farm. So some things to think about if you would happen to pick ARC-IC is if you do it on more than one farm, they are all lumped together. They're averaged together. So it works a little different than the other two programs. You have to plant covered commodity crops in order to be eligible for payment, where the other programs you don't have to plant those. So we'll just stick with corn and beans in this one. We're going to adjust these down.
The numbers you're adjusting right now, Jack, you would actually have those yields from 2013 to 2017 yes. For your farm, and yes. That's what you put in there.
Yes, this is your own farm yield now. So did we have a super year in there?
Well, no major droughts or, well, kind of droughty 1 or 2 years, but.
Probably had a 200 year though or so.
Yeah.
And we'll get this one down a little more. Yes, so, and those will be, when you update your PLC yield, these would be the same type of, be the same thing. So you'll have these, your crop insurance can help you with these. And let me go. So again, those are your own yields. And if you planted that crop on there, get down. So in this example, we have a ARC-IC benchmark revenue of 720. And we'll adjust these a little bit. And the benchmark revenue on beans is 578. So we say on our farm we yielded 150 on our corn, and we did, beans didn't turn out so good on our farm here, and we got 35. Just using 100 acres as what we got planted in 19. So using that as an example, this would show a payment, ARC-IC payment of $43 per base acre. I think another thing that I want to show here is this, if you have a farm that ended up being completely prevent planted, so let's say we didn't get any of our corn in on this farm. So we end up with 60 acres of prevent plant. But I'm going to change that up. I'm sorry. Let's say we didn't get anything planted on this specific farm. So in that sense, is if you have those farms that got 100% prevent plant, it's very much worthwhile looking into the ARC-IC. I know it takes a little more record keeping and you're going to be locked into it for 2 years, but the others right now, the way things are probably not showing a payment for ARC County or PLC. Again, depending on how that county turned out for yield. Because right now PLC prices are above the reference price. So just some things to think about. Spend a little time getting your information together. Don't forget the dates. So first one coming up is March 15th for sign up. But you also want to gather your yield information so you can update PLC yield. You may not use it even if you're not signing up for PLC. It's probably worth updating a yield as long as your yield is stronger in the new calculations. So that's really what I had. If they got questions, they can sure contact me or see those websites. Those websites that are listed on that PowerPoint, it'll be on the recording, are pretty good. It's got links to the different tools and also the FSA site for more information. Do some reading up on it. You know, they don't want to be the ones telling you what to sign up for.
Okay.
Anything?
Jack, you want to pull your PowerPoint up and then put your, I'm assuming your last slide has your contact information on it?
Yeah. You got to tell me if you're seeing this. I suppose I need to share.
Now you need to share.
Share screen. There we go. So this is the top link is to FSA and the information, which will also take you to the other decision models. This is a link to the spreadsheet that we just looked at. And then here is North Dakota's. One thing to think about in doing it, if you're thinking of ARC-IC for more than one farm, use North Dakota's, because Illinois just uses one farm. And once you get into doing 2 farms or multi-farms, that is all combined together in the calculation.
So if you have more than one farm number, make sure you use the North Dakota one.
Yeah, if you're wanting to look at ARC-IC for more than one farm.
Okay.
And here is contact information.
So any questions? I haven't seen any come in the chat. No hands are raised, and everybody still looks muted. So unless we have any questions come in, we'll talk a little bit quick here about marketing grain that might be in the bin unpriced at this point, and we'll go from there.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Jack.
You bet.
Okay, so we're going to kind of spin a different angle a little bit and talk about maybe what's the 2019 crop that's in the bin. Maybe you just want to forget about this year's crop because it was such a bugger to, one, get in the ground and then get it out of the ground. So we do have some expenses related to that crop, corn or soybeans sitting in any grain storage facilities at this time. I want to talk a little bit about some things that we need to be thinking about. I have timing of selling that grain and looking at some of those types of components. So to do that today, I'm kind of taking a different angle. We're not going to use a PowerPoint. We're going to draw some things out so that we can actually look at some numbers and how things might shake out on your farm operation that way. So hopefully right now you can see a blank sheet of paper. There's my hand and pen, and we're going to kind of walk through this. What I did was on Monday, I went to the CME and grabbed the contract prices for corn. We're just going to talk about corn today, and printed them out. And this is actually the options sheet. Somewhere there's futures. But you can print these sheets out so that you have them for numbers that you can use as you want to look through the choices that are available for you at this time with any grain that you have for sale unpriced in the bin. On Monday, what I found was some local elevators had cash prices right at that 368 level based on the March contract selling at 385. If we went out to May, I'm going to use a little bit of a stair step there to show you that that May price went up a little bit to 391. We liked the July price. It went up a little bit further to 397. September stayed constant, 397. So we never quite broke that $4 corn price level, but we did have that increase in price. And this might be something that you hear on the radio as a carry in the market, and it's a positive carry because it is going up. We've seen different times that the marketing drops and goes the other way and prices actually go down in the summer months, but currently we have a positive carry. Basically it's indicating that if you wanted to store grain in the bin, you're going to get more for it later on. So the question I guess that makes me ask is that enough carry as we move forward in today's market price situation? So that's where we're going to kind of go with the rest of today's presentation and conversation. If you have questions, please type those in and we'll try to get them answered as we go through. Jack, if I miss somebody with a question, please buzz in and make sure that I'm looking at that. So remember, we're going to base everything on the cash price that we could have got on Monday was 368 and making those assumptions. So first, let's figure the carry. Obviously, if we compare the carry from the March contract to March, that's 0 because there is no change there. From here to out to May, we increase 6 cents. If we get out to July and September, we're looking at a 12-cent increase or carry in the market. So the decision we need to make is this one enough? When I ask, is it enough to pay for further storage? Is it enough to pay the in and out charges that we're looking at for the corn that we have stored in the bin? So the next thing we need to think about is, currently basis is fairly narrow and good for our area and location. But we need to think about, is that going to continue? And right now, if we think about if we get out to March and we're talking basis, maybe a more typical basis level that we need to be considering and expecting when we get to March is a 30 under basis. By the time we're in May, maybe we're closer to 40, and maybe a more typical or common July and September basis is 50 under. So those are some numbers that we need to be thinking about as well when we're determining the cash price and the total end price that we're going to get for the corn that we have in the grain bin. So if we just do the math and determine what that contracted cash price would be, if we forward contract out with those assumed bases, and if you are contracting with your elevator, make sure that you're putting those numbers in there. They have a cash basis that they're going to bid you, so you kind of know what that number is. So if I do the math, and hopefully I did it right and fast, as the pen does not have a calculator on it or spell check either as we go through here. But those are prices that we could cash bid for. And if you look at those, you might notice one thing that is kind of a glaring obvious number is that they're all lower than the cash price as of that was available on Monday of $368. So we have it in the bin. Maybe we generally store out until March. Maybe this is the year that says selling a little earlier to take advantage of higher cash prices is something that we should look into. Because the one thing that we haven't added into there yet is this storage issue. And whether you have grain stored in your bin at home or if it's stored commercially, there is some charge related to that facility and the handling of the corn going in and out of the bin, soybeans as well. Different studies have shown that there's 10 to 12 cents of just an in and out charge of putting your grain into the bin. So we really want to be considering that is one of our one of the expenses that we need to be considering. So what I'm going to do for sake of examples is I'm going to give you a 6 cents per month storage charge that we need to be thinking about. So if we're storing corn in the bin, it's now January, we're going out to March. So there's 3 months, we've got 18 cents of storage we need to consider. We go out to May, we've got 5 months or 30 cents. Then we go 7 months and 42 cents, 9 months and 54 cents of storage that we need to be thinking about related to getting that corn out of the bin and to the elevator to sell. That might also be an opportunity cost. If your bin is paid off and you're going to try to argue with me like many people do about not having any storage costs because it's already in your bin and your bin is depreciated out and those types of things, I'm going to come back and say there's an opportunity cost if you sell that grain and put the money into the bank either to earn interest or to pay off interest that might be being incurred on some other note. That might be the numbers that you put in there. You're going to have some expenses related to storing grain. And I'm not saying don't put up bins. That's not my line here at all. But I want you to remember that there is some cost of storage. They are very beneficial when you're trying to harvest and get grain out of the fields. If you're trying to dry down corn like we needed to this year so that we didn't look at so much dock and those types of things, or waiting in line at elevators, bins have their place and they have their spots. And when they're used efficiently and effectively, they're a really good tool to have on your operation. So enough about my storage soapbox there, but we need to be putting some numbers in there. So 6 cents is what I used to figure those numbers. So what does that come down to then for the rest of our prices? If we take storage out of that contract cash price that we were talking about, now we're looking at $337, $321 in May, $305 in July, and $293 if we hold it all the way out to September. So when you look at these prices, and if you didn't like selling at $368 because you didn't think that was high enough, or your break-even price was higher, the price that you needed to cover bills and expenses was more than that, Now we need to be really looking at, if 368 wasn't enough, these prices probably aren't going to be enough either. The catch is, if you're very optimistic about the markets and you're thinking prices are going up, there's probably something that we could do, and selling cash today and look at buying call options and becoming a speculator on your expected or hoped for, anticipated on increase in the cash corn markets. And that's what we really need to be doing, is looking at placing some type of floor or creating that opportunity in a different manner given the prices that we're seeing today. Different tools that are available for you to sell the carry when there is carry. There's three that we generally would look at. The first one would be a forward contract. And you might consider that when basis is good. And at this point, we really do have a fairly decent basis. In some places, it's still near that 10 cents to zero basis. So that might be something that you're looking at doing. Maybe carry's not enough right now just to take advantage of basis. Maybe there's a basis contract that we could use if your elevator is willing to lock in a better than average or better than these expected basis numbers that I wrote in there, because that's really going to affect some of the numbers that you see. And as you work down, if you change this to 20 cents under, we just increased our sales price to 335 compared to 305. So that's where you would need to know what your elevator's basis situation, what their marketing situation is, and things that they have going forward to move grain out, and what their demand is going to be as well. There's also a couple tools when basis is poor that you can look at, the hedge to arrives or sell futures contracts. But we really don't have that situation at this point because basis is positive in the favor of those of trying to sell corn that might be unpriced in the bin. So maybe those forward contracts or basis contracts is what you want to be looking at and talking to your elevator this year. Yeah, remember when I said there's no spell check in these markers? There we go. So contact them, work with your elevator managers, see when you can get into your bins. Maybe they are now socked in with some pretty good snow drifts, and the cost of moving snow is greater than what the expected cost of waiting until March might be to move that grain. But I really want you to put some numbers down on paper, think about what that expected basis is, determine a storage cost for your operations, and then do some talking to the elevator managers to determine what might be best for you. If there's cash that can be made now, while prices are favorable and basis is still pretty good, maybe that's what you need to be looking at and watching that summertime basis if we, depending on what gets planted and what doesn't get planted again this year. So before we enter that pre-harvest marketing, want you to make some decisions about what you're doing with that 29 corn and soybean crop that might be in your grain bin stored right now. So that's what I have to share with you today. Just wanted to walk you through that, show you some numbers and some ways to put some what-if scenarios down on paper regarding your marketing decisions that you could be making, and move forward from there. So those of you that are strictly just on the phone, I apologize that this was very hands-on and a lot to see today with the calculator and the writing of the marketing ideas. Hopefully you'll be able to view the recording session later and the numbers and the information works out that way. So with that, I'll ask for any last minute questions, thoughts, or ideas. Jack, anything that you would like to add or wrap up with before we sign off for today?
I don't have anything to add. Watch the report tomorrow, see what happens there, see which way the trade's leaning compared to USDA. It may change all the numbers, but we'll see.
Okay, so take-home messages are start putting some of your numbers into those calculators after we see what the new report is. Make sure you use your data, your information, so that you have the right numbers to go in and make the decisions when you sign up with FSA. And make sure that you're doing that by March 15th for their deadline. So with that, please get a hold of Jack or I if you have any questions regarding these topics, and we would be more than happy to meet with you. If you wanted to put it on your calendar, we're going to do the next Ag Dialogues on February 14th. So we'll have a Valentine's Ag Dialogues. With that, I'm going to say thank you once more, and we'll sign off from here in Sioux Falls. Thank you.